Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in Jew. I very welcome my friends and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Are you feeling charitable? Then smash the subscribe button and the like button. And please do follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. And welcome to Sunday's edition of the DC Multiverse Daily. And as you can see, I've finally got my streaming pods. So if anyone wants to invite me onto their streams now, you don't have to be afraid of that horrible feedback. So very, very exciting stuff to get this. So we're testing this out to see how the sound is, and we'll see how we get on for today. But on today's DC Multiverse Daily, it's Sunday. So I don't really want to do anything too deep, and I don't like doing anything too deep at the weekend. So I'm going to talk about what I would do with a Man of Steel 2, a Man of Steel sequel. Don't worry about the fact that BVS pretty much is a Man of Steel sequel, but how would we do this? Because I suppose in terms of doing a present day Man of Steel movie, a Superman film, you kind of in a way would have to wait until Zack Snyder's Justice League was released, or if Zack gets sequels to them, that's problematic as well, right? So when can Henry come back in? We've waited long enough, right? So I was thinking of a BVS prequel, and I know a lot of people have been talking about this, that, you know, there's a space of 18 months, if I remember rightly, between the end of Man of Steel and the beginning of BVS. The problem with doing a BVS prequel, it can't contradict anything in BVS, which means that Superman would have to have his sequel somewhere that isn't in Metropolis, somewhere where it doesn't interfere, because nobody talks about anything that's happened kind of pre-BVS. He's there, he's now Superman, he's saving people, we know that. But the BVS world is very, very different to the Man of Steel tone. The Man of Steel tone, even though it can be a dark, gritty, real-world movie, it's also got that Superman kind of lighter tone, because I think Man of Steel is a more lighter movie, obviously, than BVS. So the question is, how do we get from Man of Steel to BVS? Now, obviously, there's things you have to deal with because Lois and Clark do move in together in the space of those 18 months. Now, I suppose at the beginning of the movie, you can see them together, you can see them going for dates, and they decide to move in. So what kind of story I would do here, one of the ideas I've got, and I've got plenty of ideas, is that he discovers the Legion ring, right? The Legion ring, when you put it on, can take you to the future. Now, I don't really want to explain how he's got the ring, and I don't think you need to explain. He finds it. He finds it somewhere. A scientist has got it. Somehow the tech is there. He puts it on and he goes to the future. So Clark discovers a future where he's been around for so many years. I don't know how many years in the future we could be talking about here. Maybe 100 years, maybe 50 years, whatever. Obviously, Jimmy Olsen. Jimmy Olsen's dead in Zack's universe anyway. But Lois Lane would have been long gone. Or maybe an old lady at this point. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? If in this future he goes to, Lois Lane is an older lady. That will be interesting. But anyway, if we go to the central point of the story, so he goes into a future where he's been around for so long and the people love him and he's been accepted. And this is obviously a very, very, very good place of doing a pre-BVS prequel, because in BVS he's not accepted by everyone. Some of the people love him and some of the people will never trust him. He's just an outsider. He's just an alien. And so what I think is interesting for Clark is to see a world that's accepted him. He's had adventures. He's fought villains, you know. He's had so many encounters with Lex Luthor by then. And that will be an interesting thing. What happened to these characters that he's encountered? Now he's in the future. He meets the Legion of Superheroes. Now, for Clark to be in this future, where is present-day Superman? Well, present-day Superman, for some reason, wouldn't be there. When I talk about present-day Superman, I'm talking about, obviously, the Superman from the future that Clark's gone to. He can't be there, obviously. I mean, maybe in the end he returns and you see Henry doing a double performance or something, but he would have to be somewhere else, maybe off world doing something else, and so you don't have to deal that with that element. And maybe at the beginning of the film there is an element of people mistaking kind of Clark from the past with Clark with the present day future. That would be interesting as well. And then you have to think of a villain for them to deal with. And that's something I really haven't thought about. My main premise is Clark going to a future where everybody loves him, right? Even after Man of Steel, they're not cheering for him. Not many people are coming up to him shaking his hand. He's pretty much has to persuade the armies to not follow him and not track him. So he's come to a future where everything Jor-El predicted has come true. They have joined him in the sun. And this is obviously a really refreshing thing for Clark to see, that the world eventually will kind of embrace him. So there's a lot of ways this could be contradictory, and people who saw a movie like this may not be too happy, because you've got that sequence in Man of Steel when he says to Lois Lane, Superman was never real. So if he goes back to the present and he remembers everything that he's experienced in the future, why would he say that? I'm when I'm doing stories, I'm very, very kind of alert that there are contradictions there. I just think it's the kind of thing where maybe in BVS at that moment, he maybe doesn't even believe that the future that he's seen is true. These are going to fall out my ear in a minute. There's something wrong with my ear holes, because no earphones can hold anything. No earphones can stay in my ears. Anyway, it's a new toy. Let's enjoy it. But yeah, so you have this element of Superman in the future. And that's how I would do that. I would just have him there. And obviously, there could be so many different kind of villains that he could face. The main thing is that everyone thinks that he's this Superman that's experienced so much. And of course, our Clark, who's come to the future, hasn't experienced anything yet. So he's kind of humouring them and saying, oh, yeah, yeah. So there's that element. Of course, if you go into this future, it's more of a lighter story. It's not going to be as dark. So there is that. And then there's the situation with the, what do you call it? All the Kryptonian life forms from the Codex, right? All inside him, right? You've got that situation as well, which I've always wanted dealt with, and it wasn't dealt with in Batman versus Superman because it wasn't Zack's story. It was David Goya's story, and what happened was Chris Terrio rewrote what David originally come up with for the sequel. So, in fact, it's not Terrio and Goya writing BVS together, it's a separate kind of vision. So that's why it's so different to Man of Steel, if you like. But it is a sequel, it is a continuation. It's just Zack's version of a continuation and not David Goya's. I think David Goya's would have linked up a lot more with Man of Steel. And there's obviously ultimately elements of Man of Steel that are not in BVS, and you can tell that. So it's a sequel. It is, and it isn't a sequel. Of course, it's a sequel, but it's doing something very different than the first film did, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so you could have a situation when Clark goes into the future that these life forms come out of Clark and they take over this future, and maybe that could be Clark's challenge. That would be interesting. That would be, and maybe in the end, I mean, these Kryptonians stay in the future because the past isn't ready for them. So you could do that too. Now, I know a lot of people wouldn't agree with this idea, but as I say, it's very difficult at this moment in time to do a sequel or a continuation to Man of Steel like Henry wants. And this is what Henry's always wanted, kind of a film to continue from Man of Steel directly. And I think Man of Steel, if you asked him what he prefers to Man of Steel or BVS, he'd say Man of Steel. I'm sure he's proud of his work on BVS, but I think Man of Steel is the film that he wanted to jump off of, right? So I think by doing this story, you can do it. You can't, if you're going to do a prequel thingy, you can't set it in Metropolis because you can't have any fighting or any more destruction because it's not mentioned in BVS. I think that's where the problem is, and you can't change things too much. But if you go to the future, or even if you go off-world, I think you can have a really fun Henry Cavill Superman adventure, as long as you set up Clark and Lois moving in together at some point in the movie. And I think the element of an older Lois Lane being there would be really, really interesting as well. And that would be the emotional element. I suppose, like, is it Peggy Carter from Captain America's story when she was older and Cap goes to visit her? It's very emotional. Not that I want to copy that, but I think it is an interesting element. There's lots of different things you can do. Now, if you want to do a proper present day Man of Steel sequel, I think that I think Metallo is the perfect character, and I've had ideas for Metallo before. I think my idea was really John Corbin working at the Daily Planet, just started. Clark and John have a friendship. Maybe there's a kind of love triangle going on between them two and Lois Lane. That would be interesting. And then something happens to him after their friendship, which makes him Metallo, obviously. And then the whole world is putting pressure on Clark to kill Metallo, and Clark doesn't want to do that. And their point is, well, you killed Zod as someone who's, from the same planet. Why can't you kill this guy? And the whole point is in that I've already killed one, so I know how that feels. I don't want to feel like that again. That was my whole idea. That's why I felt in the first place why David Goyer had Superman killed. So he actually has experience, and that's why he has this no-kill policy. And I think it would have really had some emotional kind of resonance there as well. So that's what I would have done with Metallo, that they're friends, and then it's not that they become enemies, because obviously Metallo's one of these characters in some of the iterations and where he's not totally bad, but this compelling things happen to him where he's literally, he's pretty much not human anymore. And there's a difficult element there. So also, if you do a prequel BVS, the issue is that Clark hasn't lived the Justice League movie yet or anything like that. So it'd be very important Clark doesn't find out certain elements of what's going to happen to him, but maybe things that don't cover what Snyder was dealing with at that time. But I think a present day Metallo situation would be very, very exciting as well. I think there's lots of ways that you can actually go with a Man of Steel sequel, and I think that's what's really, really exciting. I mean, for me, my own Superman idea, if I get away from the DCEU, was really to have him become become Superman in the Second World War, and then the world pressuring him, like with Metallo, to kill Hitler, and he refuses to, and then everyone starts, going against Superman because he won't kill Hitler. But Superman's stance is, I can't take sides in this war. I'm here to protect you all, even the people the bad ones and the good ones. That's who Superman is. He can't be judge, jury, and executioner. That's not who Superman is. And by the way, killing Zod doesn't make him a judge, jury, and executioner. He's in a moment where he's got no choice. He's going to kill those people. He says, don't do this. But Zod at that moment, I think, wants to die. And he knows that Superman doesn't want to kill him. And basically, Superman killing Zod is Zod's ultimate revenge, if you like, for Superman stopping him and not allowing the Kryptonians to be reborn on Earth. So that's how I see that. And as I say, there's lots of different ways of doing this. The problem with a Metallo present-day situation, no one mentions him in BVS, and unless you take a red pill or something, and everyone forgets, which is a bit stupid. It's like Clark kissing Lois in Superman 2 and her forgetting he's Superman. People just wouldn't swallow that from today's audiences because we're a bit more smarter now. When I was a kid and I saw that, I just accepted it. I thought, well, do you know what? I don't really want her to know the truth anyway. It's cool. And it was clear that Lois couldn't handle sharing Superman with the rest of the world. So as I say, if you have an imagination, you can do some great things with Superman. And I think there's a lot of potential. What I don't want to do is wait till after Zack Snyder's Justice League to even be talking about a Henry Cavill sequel, or to have to wait even longer if Zack gets sequels for Justice League as well. And I think if you do my idea of the Legion and the Clark going to the future and seeing what a hero he becomes, and that would be really interesting. And obviously, if the Codex situation explodes in that story and all these Kryptonians are there and, the human race doesn't know what to do with them, even though this is a world now in the future that's, gone to other planets, Clark helped humanity accept alien life on Earth as well. Obviously, these millions and millions of life forms on the planet Earth would be a big issue. So you could go at it like that. And as I say, a kind of Back to the Future kind of thing where he's not in he escapes his reality for a little while, people questioning him, people not trusting him. And you can deal with that at the start of the film, and then he goes to the future using the Legion ring. So they're my ideas. What do you think? Look in the comments down below. Tell me your idea for a Man of Steel sequel. Comment down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow with even more DC Multiverse Daily. See you again soon, with or without these. Do these suit me? Let me know.